is such a big part of our lives, isn't it? I love eating. It's such an enjoyable thing to do. But it's not only enjoyable, it's necessary. Because if we don't eat, we can't survive. You can't survive too long without food before you start to feel pretty weak, and there's not much else you can do until you have another good meal. We need food to survive physically and to grow physically. And the same thing is true spiritually. We need spiritual food, as it were, to grow spiritually. Jesus said an interesting thing. He says that people can't live on bread alone, on physical food alone. They need every word that comes from the mouth of God. What he was saying is that we need more than physical food in our lives to really survive and to thrive. We need spiritual food as well. Well, what is spiritual food and where do we get it? Well, that's where the Bible comes in, and that's what we're going to talk about in this session. The Bible is the most amazing book in history. And even today it is still the bestseller around the world. But what is it that makes the Bible so unique, so special? Well, not only is it a bestseller, but the unique thing about the Bible is this, that it is God's message. It is God's message to the world, but more than that, it is God's message to you and to me. It's a very special book because it doesn't just contain people's ideas about God. It contains the message of God, the words of God to us, to people. It's an incredible book. One of the most special books, I believe, in the world, in fact. And here's the great thing. It's God's personal message to you. Just imagine it's almost as if God has written a bunch of letters to you, personal letters to you, and they're all contained in this book. It's God revealing himself, revealing his heart, telling us what he is like, what he loves and what he dislikes in this world, and how to live a life that pleases and follows him. The Bible tells us everything we need to know in this life about God, about life, about ourselves. It's his message to us. What an incredible book. And why do we need the Bible? Not only to hear the message that God has to speak to us, but also to guide us through life. See, the Bible is also kind of like a roadmap or like a manual for living life, living the Christian life. It tells us things that we should avoid. It teaches us the right way to live and what is the wrong way to live. And it gives us examples to follow. Good examples to follow, bad examples to avoid. There's so much that we can learn from this incredible book. It guides us, it equips us, it helps us to live the right kind of life and to follow Jesus every day of our lives. And most importantly, it helps us to grow. Just like a baby needs food, a young child needs food to grow and to become strong and develop into a healthy adult. So we, especially when we're new Christians and even as older Christians, we need the Bible, the Word of God, spiritual food to grow up in our Christian life. And if we don't have it, it's like not eating. We'll become weak Christians and we just won't grow in our Christian lives. So the important thing is to learn to feed on the Word of God so that we can grow up in our Christian life and become strong followers of Jesus. Well, you might be asking, well, that's great, but the Bible's such a big book. Where on earth do I begin? Well, let me just give you some simple ideas. The best place to start is with easy parts of the Bible. There are some things in the Bible that are really hard to understand. Let me encourage you, just like a baby needs milk, when you're a new Christian, you just need some simple truths from the Bible and start there. You might want to start you can read, the introduction, Genesis, about how God created the world and what went wrong, and we've done that in previous sessions. But then just read about the life of Jesus. Matthew, Mark, Luke and John are 4 books at the start of the New Testament that talk about the life of Jesus. You might want to start in the shortest one, which is actually Mark. Very simple, very short, very easy to understand. Or John. John was one of the followers of Jesus and he wrote about Jesus' life. And just start there. Just read maybe a chapter a day and start to feed on the Word of God so that you can grow spiritually. And I'm sure as you do that, as I do that every day of my life, that you will discover that the Bible indeed is spiritual food that can help you to grow strong in your Christian life. So why don't you start to feed spiritually today? Well, it's time to go into our small groups and discuss the topic for today, the Bible, your spiritual food. But before we do that, let's just have a look at the memory verse together for today. The memory verse is 1 Peter 2, verses 2 and 3, and it says this: "Like newborn babies, crave pure spiritual milk, so that by it you may grow up in your salvation, now that you have tasted that the Lord is good." Well, I hope you have a great time in your small groups discussing the questions and reading the Bible passages together. And I'll see you again next week.